Hello and welcome back to yet another piece of this Aries North Node contemplation. This was very much spurred out of the Taurus North Node chapter back towards the end of the Taurus North Node transiting. I don't know if you noticed this, but the North Node stayed at 4 degrees for freaking ever. It was like it was booking it, trucking it, like getting on through with the end, and you almost wonder like, how's it gonna like not end until all the way over there? Look how fast it's going. And then it got to 4 degrees and it just like parked its little booty, and it went a little bit forwards and it went a little bit backwards and it went a little bit forwards and it went a little bit backwards. And that's all it did for like 2 months. It just sat there on 4 degrees. And so very recently, one of the questions that I had was, what are the long degrees of this Aries North Node transit, right? Like, what are the degrees that it's going to spend the most time at? And there are 4 of them that will happen. None of them have happened. We're in the very first part of the first one, which is the North Node at 25 degrees. This is the first time it's spending a long time. Like, if you noticed, the North Node changed signs and then covered 4 degrees like its life depended on it. It was like freaking fast. And now that it's on 25 degrees, it's going to stay there for a full month. I'm going to list the dates on the screen here so that you guys can follow along in your contemplation if you like. But that month that it spends on 25 degrees is only a palate cleanser, like a warm-up, like an appetizer for what it's going to do on 24 degrees, which is 2 months of spending time on 24 degrees. So we'll have that. And then it goes pretty quickly after that. So when I say quickly, most degree points that it's transiting are between, I would say, more than a week and less than a month. So somewhere between 8 to 10 days and right under a month, like 25 to 30 days kind of thing. And so long degree points, I'm saying, are over a month. So I have the first one, 25 degrees, which is a month, and then 3 other ones, which are going to be there for over 2 months. So we'll really focus on those ones. And then I also have the short degrees, meaning the degree points where it just like ran right past, like that's all you get and I ain't coming back. And okay, so the short degrees are a week. I have 2 that are a week, and then I have 2 that are 5 days and 1 that's 6 days. And so there are 5 fast degrees. So that's what we're going to talk about in this video. We're going to, lay it out here. So 24 degrees is 2 months, 15 degrees is over 2 months, and 6 degrees is over 2 months. So there are fast points of this journey and there are really slow. And like, what have we discovered here on this channel is like, when you slow down and you get still on one point, the depth that opens up to you under that energy is amazing, incredible. So we're going to look ahead and we're going to look at mostly the Sabian symbols of the 4 long degrees, and we're going to spend a little bit of time looking at what each of those symbolism can tell us. And then we're also going to look at the short degrees and maybe see what that has to add as far as the Sabian symbols. Like, why are we moving so quickly through this part? Obviously, this must not be as big of a piece of the lesson plan. This isn't as much of it as far as the whole Aries archetype, all 30 degrees along Aries border. Some of the degrees are really, really important for this transit, and some of them not so much. And so that can also be fun to add to your own Aries placements, your Libra placements, your other fire signs, your other air signs, your other cardinal signs, like all the ways that that Aries Libra axis is connecting into your unique natal chart. And check it out. Like, if you have one of these long degrees as like the exact degree of your sun or your rising sign or something like that, like expect it to be a powerful transformation for you. And then we'll look at the symbols and see like, okay, so how do we make the most of that? Like, what are we supposed to get out of it? So that'll be number 1. Let's take a look at 25 degrees of Aries. And I put the website that I used down in the description box, and then I'm showing you the write-up that this author has. And I do believe this Aries 26, that is 25 degrees of Aries, and I'm not going to get into how Sabian symbols work. That's why I love this website, because you just have to pick the real degree number and it will automatically translate it for you. So 25 degrees Aries, a person possessed of more gifts than they can hold. I fucking love this as our first long degree. And at the time I'm recording this, how about this? We're actually in this transit right now. So whenever you're finding it, no big deal. The information still stands. August 30th through September 27th, we are in this energy for 1 month. We're sitting at 25 degrees of Aries. The South Node is at 25 degrees of Libra. We should totally look that one up too. So we are building for a whole month. We have more gifts than we can even hold. And what an amazing, incredible honor of a problem to have. Okay, let's read the rest of this. This symbol often shows someone who has more talent, more possessions, more gifts than most other people. And in the collective, this energy of realizing what it is gift-wise that you do possess, like that, expect that to grow in the collective, like general self-esteem and confidence on the horizon, like so exciting. Perhaps too much is demanded or expected of you, or you expect life to give you more and more and more. Recognize that you are surrounded by abundance, but perhaps you are unable to experience it all at once. If you don't feel you have the ability to cope with all that life throws at you, then look in your storehouse. And you could be surprised at talents you have that have never even been used. You may have to give up some things in order to make room for others. Potentially, obsessions about having things or achieving goals, counting one's blessings, a jack of all trades, having to drop things because you can't contain them. Not focusing on one issue at a time, or ideas of real worth and not really achieving anything. Inability to gain or contain everything, unrestrained ambitions. And some of that at the end is trying to paint the shadow of this particular piece of Aries energy. But I want to say, like, you know, there's a quote that says like something like self-doubt will kill more dreams than failure ever will. And it's like, that's what this energy is like for a whole month, we get to sit here and we get to kind of like take stock of just how gifted we really are, and know that if you're new to that space of being like, oh my God, like look how talented I am, like if that's new territory for you, cool, welcome. And expect that a very real side effect of this, it's a good problem to have, but it's a problem, is that you only have the right now moment of focus. You only have these two hands, you only have the 24 hours in a day that you have. And then it's up to you to decide, like it's a really cool place to be in your life when you get to the point where you have to pick between all the fun things I could do, I am only doing the most fun. I was explaining this to somebody the other day, how of course that's fun, but it's not the most fun. I fill my time with the funnest of the funnest of the funnest, right? And then there's a long line of things that would of course be fun that I have to say no to because they're not these top things. And so this time, this month, August 30th through September 27th, could very well be a great time for focus wheeling and getting together your concept of who are you and what unique talents do you bring to the table? What are you gifted with that other people may not have as big of a dose as you do? And that's not arrogance, that's realistic, you know? Like take stock of what you have and don't be surprised if you're overwhelmed by like, wow, like there's just too much. I couldn't possibly do all of this. Right. So what is the funnest of the fun of the fun? Right? So that's really where we're trying to get to, but it doesn't hurt to open up our mind and kind of add some more to the mix and make sure that as we are selecting the most fun, we really are looking at the real picture of like, what is it that you truly enjoy doing? What truly feels like a gift when you get to express it? So we're spending even longer then at 24 degrees. That one takes us from September 27th all the way through November 30th. So right around 2 months, couple days extra. So this one is a double promise reveals its inner and outer meanings. A double promise, how interesting. Okay, let's see what the full write-up says. This symbol shows that what at first appears to be may reveal itself to actually be something else. Simple promises can be more complicated than first thought. The rational and emotional responses can conflict with each other. One wants something, the other wants something else. However, this can be the way to really view things from an inner and outer perspective. Also indicates the choice that arises of the heart and of social obligation. Like, which are you going to choose? Realize the implications of expectations and promises. And then there may be a reward involved. Promises, something that may look good on the outside but have a different meaning on the inside. Look back to pledges made. And then fickleness, insincerity, and two-facedness in human relationships. Promising more than can be delivered, not turning up, having hidden agendas. So already I am loving the way that this is structured, where for a month we get to take stock of what is it that we truly love, what is it that we truly desire and value, what, if we were going to design our perfect life, what is it that we would spend our days doing? What is the funnest of the funnest of the fun? And then we get to spend 2 months realizing that it really isn't at all about us, right? Like everything that we do has ripple effects because we're in this world where everyone is interconnected through the all. So for 2 months, we get to sit in this energy of realizing that, you know, everything that we choose has implications. And that's not to say that you can't listen to your heart and do what it is that you feel called to do. If anything, the Aries North Node is hoping that that's what you're going to choose. Meanwhile, the Libra South Node is a reprogramming of our ideas around relating to other people and our values in relationships. And so this could very well be a time where you decide that if someone is going to continually disrupt my peace, or if someone is going to in some other way feel like they're holding me back from having what it is that I truly, like my heart's desire, right? AKA, they are not letting me be me. They are trying to stand in the way of that. And at some point we have this decision of like, will you allow them to stand in your way? Will you allow them to be your benchmark of who you should be in this world, or will you listen to your heart? And that is not a light and breezy decision by any means, because again, this degree is telling us like these promises that we make, these commitments that we take on, like they have ripple effects. Actions in the 3D have consequences in a good and bad way. That's where it says it can be a reward. It could also be like a comeuppance of some kind where you promised more than that could ever be delivered. So it feels like it has a really thick connotation of like being really realistic about doing yourself and others the favor of being realistic about, yes, what you desire, but also how much can truly be delivered. What are you truly capable of promising and giving, like in order to keep that promise? I learned a long time ago, you know, I'm only easing my way back into even allowing myself to make promises because of this exact concept of like, dude, like I am the first one in line making promises that I can't keep, or that like over the long term, like it takes so much to live up to that promise than I ever expected. And then I realized, you know, kind of in a heartbreak kind of scenario, like I can't do this. Like there's nothing wrong with this, except I shouldn't have signed myself up for it because it takes more than I personally have to give. And then I have to withdraw myself out of that situation. And that's usually tumultuous of some kind. So to get realistic about what it is that we want to offer feels like, yeah, great, let's do that. So the next one that we have is 15 degrees. So let's look that one up. 15 degrees is happening in 2 different chunks. We have a first taste of this energy February 26th through 29th. So just for a few days, it steps onto 15 degrees, and then it goes back to 16 degrees for, again, just a few days. And we have it March 6th through May 12th again. So that adds up to over 2 months. by a decent little chunk. And on this one, 15 degrees, so this will be the longest degree we'd had so far, February to May of 2024. Brightly clad brownies dancing in the warm dying light. What? Okay, let's read the write-up. The brownie's symbol is a magical one, and it shows that help, given or received, is always available, especially if you believe it and welcome assistance that's offered. Sometimes your intuitive powers are at a real high, but your physical energy may not be. You may be tired and in need of help to get everything done, and a lot may be demanded of you. Have faith that there's often invisible assistance around you. You are always being guided and protected. Open your mind to possibilities and listening to the messages from within. Of course, you could be a brownie for someone else, assisting others when they need it. I don't even know what a brownie is. Anybody else? If anybody knows, tell us in the description. And then it says, reveling in nature, fairies and nature spirits, maybe it's something like that, believing in guides, the magic of dusk, guidance and magic, synchronicity and things that arrive in the nick of time, elves. And then, of course, the shadow of this is self-delusions, not getting a true picture of what's happening in the real world, losing the plot, neglecting responsibilities, crying wolf, and always needing help. And oh God, yeah, that always needing help part, like not to beat ourselves up, because like that's not helping anybody, but it's like there is a very real epidemic of overpromise and underdeliver. You know, like I know that I had to clean that shit up out of my own habits of behavior. And that's why I've been on like a hiatus for pretty much ever since I canceled my wedding. I'm like, okay, no more promises. No more commitments for the rest of your life. Like, dude, you suck at making promises. Like, you're not good at it at all. And so stop it, because the consequences of having to take it back, it friggin' sucks. It sucks to overpromise, and underdeliver is not a crime. It's like a failure of self. It's a limitation of self that like I cannot deliver. I cannot deliver on this promise. And waking up to that realization is one of the most painful things that I've ever gone through. And I've gone through it multiple times to the point where, yeah, I just don't make promises anymore because I can't, I'm not allowed. Like it doesn't work out for me. And so this concept of like, okay, so now again, we get 2 more months of how well did you do at making your promises? Are you able to truly live with the way you've structured, this is what I'm going to give, this is what I'm going to do, this is the handful of gifts that I'm going to choose to work with and get really, 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 really freaking good at. I'm going to specialize in these gifts. And then like, 6 months later, thereabouts, we get to really check in and be like, okay, so how's it going? Did you bite off more than you could chew? Because that's like a common thing. So like, no worries if you did that, you're in good company. Then we're gonna keep going, like another few months here. So that was in bulk, March 6th through May 12th. So then we have, 3 months later, August 29th through November 5th. This is another 2+ months of we will stay at 6 degrees for over 2 months of getting to add to the depth of this contemplation in this specific area of Aries. Let's check it out. Yes, Bubble. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. I love it. A person successfully expressing themselves in 2 realms at once, which sounds like, what kind of magic is this? Reminds me of the elves and the fairies that we had on that last degree. This is a great degree of being successful in 1 or more areas of your life. Even though life may somehow seem divided, you can be fully expressive in each aspect of your life if you give each aspect value and look for each part's individual importance. There's the ability to shift your focus from one thing to another when it's needed or useful. Be careful not to scatter your energies, but of course, indulge in the various areas of life or projects that interest you. can be straight jobs versus weird hobbies, or vice versa, or having two relationships or two versions of reality happening at the same time. And then it goes on, integrating the spiritual and the material, creative versatility and duality, moving through people's lives and social stratas, living a dual life, moonlighting, versatility. And then fooling yourself that you can be all things to all people and eventually failing, infidelity and fickleness, compromising to keep people happy. So every energy can be taken too far. So if you take it too far, that's again where you're basically back in that place of over-promising and under-delivering. But what it's saying is that you can have it all. Theoretically, assuming all is like 2 or 3 pieces that you could like realistically fit into 24 hours in a day, right? So it's about being strategic, right? Aries is a Mars ruled sign, and there is a lot of impulse. There's a lot of instinct in that energy and that fire. But at the same time, like, we can absolutely be strategic, especially that's where this was very much like wanting to come through. Like, what are the long degrees? What are the long degrees? And now I want to go through what are the short degrees of Aries. And I'm going to do a whole nother video where we come back and look at the long and short side as far as the Libra Sabian symbols. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the short Aries degrees. So the first one that we already did was 28. Let's look that one up. That one was only a week and happened like right off the bat. I mean, pretty much as soon as Aries North Node started, we landed first on 29 and then on 28. So they both went real quick. 28 degrees, Sabian symbol, the music of the spheres. Okay, this symbol speaks of the beauty of music and harmony and is particularly intuitive. It doesn't matter if things are going well or not. If you are in tune with the inner voice, this can show an inner accord with your path. Savor the lessons that come and know that everything happens in its own time and you'll grow in wisdom. The music of the spheres can show attuning to the messages of astrology, numerology, mathematics, and science. Oh, the spheres, like natal chart wheel, and okay. Sing, tune into the planets, listen to music, dance, and celebrate life. Voices bringing messages, music, harmonies, chords, keys, octaves, circadian rhythms, days of the week, the planets speaking, the measuring and the passing of time, inflating rational ideas to appear to be inspired thought, delusion or enlightenment, question mark, getting lost in abstractions, loving only the sound of one's own voice. So I love that, you know, this is, again, this short degree, it feels like one of the more self-oriented, and that's kind of the end. Like, yes, you're connecting to the spheres, and that is like an extension of divinity in its own way. And yes, you are divinity in your own way. But as far as like all the long degree Sabian symbols that we read, they are so much more about like kind of the tribe, like the implication of other people on what you're doing. Like really tying that together as far as like, yes, you get to have exactly what you want and you can have it all, but you don't get to be a dick about it. You know, that's one way of saying it. Let's look at the next short degree. So this one is only 6 days. So this was extra short, and this one's coming up in December through January 1st. So December 27th through January 1st. So over the new year, we will have the North Node sitting at 21 degrees, or rather running across 21 degrees real freaking quick, but still happening at a very auspicious time, with happening over January 1st. So let us see. Again, 21 degrees. The gate opens to the garden of all fulfilled desires. Fuck me, man. Like, okay, and over New Year's is when Capricorn season is. Capricorn being an earth sign that already, I think, aligns so perfectly with that time of year, which is about setting intentions about what do you want your life to be. Another year has gone by. Is it what you want it to be, or do you need to make it something different? And that earth energy of Capricorn supporting us over the new year coming in. For, you know, our culture, I know other cultures celebrate the new year at different times. Don't mean to be disrespectful about that. That's just my lens that I'm looking at it through. But Capricorn energy definitely aligns with that New Year's date, and the the gate opens to the garden of all fulfilled desires. Like, we don't have access to it for very, very long, but we do have access to it at a time where most of us are taking time and kind of like pulling inwards. So this is such a cool contemplation as far as like what is in the garden of all fulfilled desires. Like, that's something incredibly unique for each and every one of us. But I would be so curious to know, especially after everything we've talked about with like, we can only cultivate like the garden that we can physically get to with our own two hands. Like, if we build too big of a garden, weeds overtake the whole entire thing and then nothing gets harvested out of the garden. But if we really focus on, I love corn, radishes, and roses, and that's what I'm gonna do, and like you devote yourself to doing those things so well, absolutely, like, it's just a matter of time before every desire that you are able to dedicate consistent focus to, it will all be delivered to you. So as you look through the gate opening to the garden of all fulfilled desires, what do you see? And asking yourself that question as we ring in the new year, how freaking cool is that? Let's read the longer write-up. This symbol brings up fabulous opportunities and possibilities. You could find yourself in beautiful places with your desires met. There can be the promise of happiness, stability, and feeling like you've arrived where you want to be. At times, though, you may be right at the point of what you want, but perhaps you need to make the deliberate action of opening the gate, admitting to yourself what you want and where you want to be. Again, how perfect is that for New Year's? Perhaps you need to knock, showing your intention of wanting in. Maybe you already have everything you need. Look around. Craving for happiness, gardens, pathways to joy. I want to elaborate on gardens real quick. As far as like gardens, in my mind, I have a very strong Taurus vibe in my chart. Gardens are about putting in effort and getting rewards out of it. It's almost like if you do what you can to tend to the crop, and God forbid a natural disaster doesn't take it away from you, or a natural pest doesn't take it away from you, you can have it. And especially if you're only growing this crop, your ability to protect your crop is also enhanced and strengthened. So your likelihood of getting the reward out of your efforts is really good. Being selective has its rewards. The grass, right up here. Rewards and treasures, domestic bliss, passages to a better life, acquiring property, realizing luck and wealth, and utopia. Big one. Denying the right to receive just rewards. Denying the right to receive just rewards. What, like you don't think you deserve to have all your fulfilled desires? Like, come on, man. The deservability treatment's in the description if anybody's in that boat. The grass always being greener on the other side. Always wanting more and more. Possessions owning you. Cup half empty or half full. Like you're trying to grow too many things at the same time. So it's a beautiful, even though it's a short degree, I think that's a beautiful reality check to come to just as we're celebrating the new year. Right after the holidays, where a lot of us can definitely slip back into kind of our old defaults of being, as far as regressing into old patterns and ways when we get around people from our past. So as a kind of detox from that, we have the leading edge of like peer through the gate open into the garden of all your fulfilled desires. How wonderful. So let's look up the next one. The next fast degree is shortly after that, January 23rd through 28th. So only 5 days. This is one of the two shortest ones. 18 degrees and 1 degree are the two where we will have the least amount of time to peer through this energy. Let's look up 18 degrees of Aries. January 23rd through the 28th. Ooh, we have a magic carpet hovers over the depressing reality of everyday life in an industrial area. That's just so specific, isn't it? So 18 degrees, January 23rd through the 28th, a magic carpet hovers over the depressing reality of everyday life in an industrial area. I gotta sneeze again. Oh, that's 2 sneezes on the magic carpet ride. Oh, kind of unsettling a little bit, but at the same time kind of feels good, to like have that dust stirred up. So maybe that's something to do with this symbol. This symbol shows that you can use your imagination to lift your level of understanding into other, perhaps higher realms. By elevating ourselves above the everyday world, we can transcend worry and strife. There is a clear message here that you can lift yourself above negative situations, and by doing so, you can attain a calmer, more creative, and spiritual life. With expanded awareness, you can have an elevated perspective that reveals greater truths. However, be a little careful not to lose yourself in the longing for escape or the exotic. You probably have to come back down to the earthly plane every now and then. Vehicles of transcendence, elevated views, transcending problems, astral travel, carpets and rugs that are special, meditation, levitation, escapes through fantasy or film. And then we also have self-defeating detachment from the everyday world, like kind of too detached, too risen above that you're really not effective in the 3D anymore. Losing yourself in flights of fancy, extreme longing for escape, using drugs or alcohol to avoid life. Sure. So again, very, very short-lived taking this magic carpet ride, but like you think about the thing about an experience like that, the thing about a magical experience is that even though it may be brief in its experience, when you truly experience transcendence, like I've done mushrooms several times, and like when you actually have that feeling, like you remember it, like it kind of rewires your entire being just in those few hours. So the fact that we only have 5 days, I don't think we need to get down about that. And if anything, really, it isn't about being in the fantasy. The fantasy is there for us as far as if you need to refuel, if your 3D is looking pretty bleak, you know, like an industrial space, like if it's bleak in your 3D, a little bit of fantasy, a little bit of transcendence can actually be really energizing to get you back into what it is that you're doing and understanding the greater truth at play in what it is that you're doing, right? It's not just it's not just today in this bleak space, right? It's something bigger. And so taking a second to take 5 days to like get on the magic carpet and see what you find. And so this is January 23rd to January 28th, which is super freaking fascinating, making a connection that I hadn't made yet, which is Aquarius season starts just a couple of days before that. And on January 20th and 21st of 2024 is when Pluto makes its permanent ingress into Aquarius for the next 20 years. And so literally 2 days after Pluto gets to Aquarius for a 20-year job that it's there to undertake, we have these 5 days of go on the magic carpet ride and tell me what you see. Tell me what's up there. What is it that you see? What is the fantasy version of, like, remember we have coming up after this, like, you can have everything you want. If you see something in the fantasy version, you can ground it into reality. You do have to come back out of the fantasy and get back in the reality in order to do that. So again, we only have 5 days on the magic carpet. But we will remember that experience for 20 years as we work on building that step by step by step, this Pluto and Aquarius process. Okay, we have 2 degrees left. Let's take a look at the next one, which is another, hey, don't you bite my microphone. No. Let's see. So we have 13 degrees is our next fast one. So 13 degrees of Aries. We have that unfolding. I'll put the date on the screen. I did not pull it yet in my research, but I do know it's only a week. A serpent coiling near a man and a woman. Interesting. This Sabian symbol this Sabian symbol shows, this symbol shows that there is likely to be tense emotion, particularly around relationships. Okay, 13 degrees, 1 week. There can be a sense of tension, fear, and passion. Yeah, tension is not necessarily a bad thing. Tense is not necessarily a bad thing. Situations may arise where something or someone tries to come between you and a beloved. This can be a person, an event, or an emotion. Jealousy, temptation, fear, resentment, or separation can arise. You may need to learn to let go and find new depths to your ways of relating and relationships. Are you looking for or have you found your Garden of Eden? enticement, allurement, the revelation of archetypal knowledge that may not be socially acceptable. Ooh, that's, yeah, the serpent, interesting, taboo kind of things. Temptations, heated emotions, passion, and kundalini energy. That's another referral to the snake. Feeling guilty about being afraid to express your feelings, basic instincts and sexual energy, jealousy, using passion as a controlling device, and being thrown out. So that's super interesting. That, you know, as we look back and forth between the long degrees and the short degrees, you know, we have 18 degrees for 5 days of, you know, what is it that we can see on this magic carpet? And then we have 15 degrees for over 2 months. And then we have this 13-degree place of like, if what you are living is not yet your greatest desire, then most likely there will be this moment of having to decide of like, do you want to continue on having harmony in relationships, or do you want that inner harmony? That like, is there something more for you? And yes, in Aries energy, we see the shadow of wanting more, of like never really being satisfied, but like there are so many people who are so far away from satisfaction, and the only reason they're not chasing their more is because they're afraid of losing what they have. They don't want to take the risk. And at a certain point in this awakening of Aries North Node, it's like we will get to see the reality of how closely our current life is to matching our deepest heart's desires. For better or for worse, we're going to get to wake up in that moment. The last short degree that we have on the Aries side is 1 degree of Aries. And that is, again, one of the 2 shortest ones. We'll only be there for 5 days. And I've got the date on the screen here. I did not pull it yet. Okay, it's a comedian entertaining a group of friends. How fun. This symbol shows that an objective awareness of oneself and others can bring light relief to you and those around you. This symbol shows that an objective awareness of oneself and others can bring light relief to you and those around you. We often need to be reminded that we are essentially human and share the same imperfections, frailties, and shortcomings as the next person. See the humor and joy in situations. Positive reactions can be an escape route from difficulties through seeing the funny side. Group cohesion and joy can come through sharing fun and being able to laugh and joke as an important part of life. Seeing the light side, being the life of the party, having insight, answers being on the go, always being on the go mentally. Jesus, I'm like not being able to read right now. Always being on the go mentally, banter, cracking up with laughter, putting on a show, knowing what to say and when, being trivial to avoid reality and still gain being trivial to gain reality and still gain acceptance, somebody not taking life seriously enough, acting the clown, demanding the spotlight, dodging issues, and being a bore. Yeah, like so much to give, and as always, when we take it too far, it's not cool. But I think, again, this is such a beautiful like closing out. Like 1 degree, we're almost done. We're on the home stretch here of the end of the Aries North Node transit, and it is such a beautiful end considering the first long degree that we had. Like the first real opening of this Aries North Node contemplation is 25 degrees Aries, where we have more gifts than we could possibly hold. And we are awakening to that early on in the Aries North Node transit. And then at the end, one of the last little bits of lessons that we get to cram in on the Aries North Node lesson plan is that look at how much light you're able to put forth into the world when you share the insight that you have into yourself, that thus gives you insight into other people. Like when we're super clear-minded inside of ourselves, again, because we've cut out the fray, because we've specialized, we've gotten really specific about what it is that we want and we desire and we prefer, we get to have it all. big degree, small degree, everything is pushing us towards this place of, yes, you get to basically design your life to be exactly how you want it to be. And in doing that, it is ultimately in the best interest of the others around you. Just don't overpromise, right? Like, that's where I think overall what I'm taking from this, and that I've already been feeling, is like, it's time to specialize. It's time to get really specific about, this is my specialty. I do this. And by being in a specialty, you are giving the best of what you have to give, and you're leaving every other part. Like, the person might come back and be like, well, but I need somebody to do this part and this part and this part. I don't just need somebody to do this part that you specialize in. Okay, well, I'm happy to do the part that I specialize in, and you can go find people to hire to do these other parts, or you can try to find somebody who's not me who wants to do the whole thing. These are your options. And, you know, hire me for my special part or don't, and that's up to them. But in specializing, there is like a depth of energy and light that we are each able to put on the planet, and to not take that lightly, right? We're going to spend the rest of this Aries North Node transit uncovering what are those gifts that you possess that you can deliver onto this planet, and how can you be doing that in a way where you are lighting up this world, helping to provide relief from the mundane issues that will always be there. This is a 3D, they're not going away. But if we're all doing our part to add a little levity, to add a little support, to add a little funny, to add a little fun, what a world this can be. When I fly on the magic carpet, I see a place where we are all standing in our power, offering what it is that we have to offer. Dear friend, if you have enjoyed this video, please take a second and give it a thumbs up, subscribe. I'd love to hear your comments down below. Until next time, to take good care of yourselves, and so will I.